What's up, everyone, and welcome to another Bitcoin market update. In these videos, you will learn how to use technical analysis to forecast price movements in your favorite cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and others, and also see where we are looking to buy and sell these crypto assets ourselves. So let's get into it here with Bitcoin on the monthly time frame. We got a lot of action to talk about here. We talked about this over the last several days. It is no surprise that we saw the price action that we saw. If you've been watching the videos and keeping up with this channel, you will have known that this is exactly what we've been talking about would happen. We expected a move down into the weekly level that we'll talk about in just a second, but let's start off with the monthly time frame. So we had several months of a significant uptrend here with increasing bull volume until in the month of April we had what we considered to be a bearish spinning top candlestick, and this is what we call a reversal candlestick. So when this comes at the top of a run, this signifies the end of that run and a short-term drawdown in price. So that's exactly what we're seeing right now, with this month of May drawing down pretty significantly below the low of 47K. Today we got down all the way to 29,100. So you can see we moved down to that R1 level and even moved past it. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But on the monthly time frame, the important thing to watch for is a monthly higher low to be set somewhere above this low from September down here at 98.21. So it's very likely that we will set a monthly higher low somewhere above that low. We may have already just done that at 29,000 roughly. If so, then what we'll probably end up seeing this month is some close of a pretty, relatively bearish candle here. With 12 days left, if we see increasing bear volume, which is, likely with 12 days left, a little bit less than half the month, we're already at 85.976 billion on this exchange. Last month we had 96, so it's only about 11 more. Today was pretty significant, obviously, but it's not impossible to see that increase in bear volume, which should signify that the next month will probably go below the low of the previous month, but we'll see. Let's look at the weekly time frame. So this is exactly what we've been talking about over the past several days here. Once we pushed below this R2 level, you can see that we immediately went down to the R1, which is down here at about 38,000. You can see we're starting to react off of that level and have a bounce here. This light blue level, which is our main support level, has held. We did not go below that level. We got close, but we did not get all the way below it. So this level is still valid and holding for us for the time being. Right now, in terms of will this level hold or not, and will we go below it, we need to keep in mind the lower time frame trends are grinding through this level. So on this time frame, we could have a candlestick close like this for the week and still be bearish on lower term time frames. And that's because on the daily time frames we're in a bearish position right now. So we've been in a bearish trend for several days now. So it's important to keep in mind that if we keep on those shorter term time frames staying in a bear trend, we will slowly grind through this zone on the weekly time frame as well. And if we go below this zone, the next weekly support level is this candlestick back here from December 7th, which is at about 19,458. In terms of overhead resistance on the weekly time frame, if we end up closing this candlestick below this low at about 47K, then this white candlestick right here will end up being a resistance zone for us on a retest. So let's look at the 3-day time frame. 3-day time frame, we have increasing bear volume in the next 2 days and 2 hours. If the bulls want to see us pull up here, they're going to need to see this either flip to be a green volume bar, which would be the ideal scenario, or have this be decreasing bear volume. If we look at the 3-day time frame, something that's important to note here is this gray zone right here is now a resistance zone, and this is a very significant development because this was a support zone that we saw two tests of before we eventually push through it. And so this is a significant resistance level for price. If we come back into this level, this is where I will look to be going short with my stop loss above on the daily time frame. This is on the 3-day time frame. This is the daily trade that I'm going to look for, but let's look at lower term time frames to see what the entries are there as well that I'm looking at. So if we look at the daily time frame, we can see today's daily candle is pretty gruesome, going from about 43.6 down to 29.1. We're operating on top of this dark blue zone here, which is this candlestick back here from sorry, my allergies are acting up a little bit here today. February 7th. So February 7th is where we had this bull trend right here with a higher low and then higher high. Very simple pattern that we talk about in this channel all the time. You can see that the price is sitting on top of this level and the S2 daily pivot level here. So this may support price for the day. We'll see if we close with this long lower wick, which is very likely at this point since we only have an hour left. This is likely to potentially see a bounce up here in the coming days. Who knows if it'll get all the way up to this gray zone. If it does, you know, hallelujah, and I'm going to go bazooka short on that. But, you know, you have to think about the rise in price and how much we're going to need to rise to get up to there. That's about a 20% increase. Now, it's not impossible for that to happen, but if we look at like the trend following indicators, Ichimoku cloud is flipping to be incredibly bearish. This is exactly the thing that you want to see if you're a bear, because this is going to be the beginning of a significant downtrend. If the Tenkan and the Kijun get below the cloud and set up, and the cloud's flipping red here, you can see that this is getting into the position of the most bearish scenario that this indicator can be in. So this is the most bullish scenario it can be in. Tenkan, the blue line above the red, cloud green, and price above all of that. You can see that, you know, the moment that became a thing down here, you know, the price action speaks for itself, what we saw after that. So if this flips bearish, this is the opposite of that. And so that's something to really be aware of, because that's starting to develop. You can see we're going to close another daily candlestick below the cloud very likely today. And if we do, then, you know, the next coming days we're going to have to see us go back inside this cloud to try and save this pattern from turning into that. But we'll see, because the overhead resistance that we're dealing with now is pretty significant, and people are still considering this to be the dip. And so sometimes, you know, you have to think about market psychology, and this is something that is very important when you're analyzing price action is, what is the rest of the market thinking right now? The reason why we dumped so much is because up here, the market was still thinking that we were bullish. Now, when we were talking on this channel about the price action being bearish right here, we said on this daily candle on May 13th, the price action is now bearish. You can see that if, you know, you followed that one thing that we talked about on the channel, 40% gain. So, you know, the reason that this happened is because we talked about the trend. So the trend is something that you just, as long as you're aware of the trend, you're in a good position most of the time. You know, you're going to get stopped out when the trend changes, but, you know, at the beginning of a trend like this, like when we're in a bull trend for quite some time, and then eventually, you know, the trend turns bearish and it's confirmed bearish, that's significant. And so you can see that 40% drawdown is, you know, exactly what we saw after that. People were not, you know, so going back to market psychology, people were not expecting this to go all the way down to where it went over the last few days. You know, people were expecting, oh, we're just grabbing liquidity from below this low and now we're going to go up from there. But they weren't keeping in mind the trend. And so this is what happened here was liquidations. So a lot of people that were on leverage got their positions automatically closed out by the exchange and lost all their money because they were not using a stop loss. And so this is why you use a stop loss, because this price movement right here could, you know, liquidate your entire account, meaning you have no more money to trade with, and you don't want that to happen. So you need to be aware of the market psychology that exists. And this is a more advanced concept when you get into trading in the financial markets. But market psychology is very important because you need to be thinking kind of in a contrarian state of mind, as opposed to going with the herd of what they think in terms of the entire market psychology, right? If the sentiment is all bullish, you should be considering how long is this a sustainable kind of situation to be in where a majority of the market is bullish. And when the majority of the market is bearish, it's the same thing. But right now, we're not hearing people talk about, this being very bearish. We're talking people, oh, I'm buying the dip, and this is the dip. And so, typically that's what you see in a market cycle on this side of the market. So on the run up, this is where people are getting euphoric right in this range because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm making so much money. That was right here. Peak euphoria. People were making a ton of money. Everyone was getting rich. And then boom, we got, shit on right here. And then the market had this, second kind of rally to try and come up. And then boom, now, this is significant. This is very, very significant. And so you need to be aware that this might be the top of this market. This might be the top of this market cycle. So you need to be aware of that as a trader or investor and make decisions accordingly. Are you okay with holding the positions that you're in for potentially years? Who knows how long the bear market can go. So it's important to keep that in mind. So, I'm not saying that this is the top, and I'm not saying, I'm not going to try and predict the top. I'm not that type of a trader or investor. I trade the trend. And right now the trend is bearish, so I'm looking to go short. So I'm going to make money on this side of the market. And you can either, go short and make money as well, or you can try and figure out where you think the bottom is and then try and time that. I'm much more the type of person where I like to wait for a bullish trend to emerge on the lower term timeframes and then buy support retests, because that's a high probability trade. Trying to knife catch the bottom, I don't care about getting the cheapest price. I care about making money. And so that's what I'm after. And so right now, the money-making opportunities are in short opportunities. So let's look at another one here. If we go to the 8-hour time frame, we can see the setup that I'm currently looking at right now. So that is this pattern right here, which is just a very simple bear pattern with a high, low, lower high, lower low. And so this white candle where people were buying Bitcoin, now people will sell their Bitcoin if we come back into it because they know that we're in a confirmed bear trend. And so this is a resistance zone. You can put your stop loss. I'm putting my stop loss above. Everything on this channel is for educational purposes only, is not intended as financial advice. Got to remember to say that one. And then, this one's got a pretty good risk reward. Even if we just go down to the light blue zone again, it's about 12%, 2.15 risk reward. So this is a pretty good one. This is kind of the trade that if we don't end up going all the way up to the gray zone on a daily bounce, this is the zone that we could end up going into over, the course of like tomorrow, let's say. So we'll see what we get, but this is where my entries are, bottom of the wick and then body of the candle. So that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. And then if we look at like the trend following indicators, you can see that Ichimoku cloud on the 12-hour, well, they're currently at the exact same price level, but if we look at actually this is about to be the level. So if we look at the 12-hour time frame, you can see that this 8-hour level is about to turn into a 12-hour level, meaning it's even more significant than the 8-hour level. So this just increases my confidence in this trade, and I'm liking seeing that. But if we look at the 8-hour time frame, it's very important to note that this Ichimoku cloud is in the most bearish scenario that it can be in. Cloud's red, thin, very thin cloud, and the Tenkin and the Kijun are above price, and the Tenkin is below the Kijun, the red line. And they're not blown out of proportion, meaning that this is set up for further downside. That's what this is telling us. When we're in the opposite scenario, like we see right here, we're in position for upside, and that's what we see there. But once we flip to the opposite, like we did right here, boom, very clear signals with this indicator. I really like it, and this is you can just ride the trend with this baby. So that's what we're currently dealing with on Bitcoin. Remember to keep market psychology in mind when you're making these sorts of decisions. What is the market thinking? We're actually going to be releasing a product to help you do this in the coming months, which will help you do sentiment analysis and figure out what is the market actually thinking. And it takes the data, it actually synthesizes that and gives you an output on a dashboard that tells you, is the market more bullish or bearish? Then you can form an opinion on which side of that you want to take. So you can take contrarian bets like the ones we've been talking about on this channel over the last several days that have been incredibly profitable, as we've seen right here. Other trades that we talk about in the Telegram channel, we had one on Neo, which if we just jump over here real quick, on Neo, we had a call that I talked about on the channel that was this resistance level right here. An entry on that level yielded about 60% over the course of a little over a week. So those are the types of calls and trades that we talk about on the Global Leutheria Community Telegram channel. If you'd like to join that, you can join that in the link in the description below. Also, check out our beginner tactical analysis course that we just released on Leutheria.com, which you can get 20% off if you get it before May 20th. You can learn all of the different stuff associated with technical analysis that'll lay down that foundation that you need to get started generating consistent profit doing the things that I do on this channel, which is trading these different cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and several others. So keep that in mind, and until tomorrow, onward and upward.